So the first thing you want to know about the Dodongo Grotto alternate exit is that there is RNG with the Dodongos that matters for the trick. So when you practice it, you want to save state like this. I don't know if you can see in the capture, but like I can barely see the Termina field fading out here. So you want to save state like this. That's like before you load in, so that you get different RNG scenarios. And then you want your Y position. Um, there's like a range of heights that work for when you do the mega flip to clip. So you probably want to be watching that when you're learning. I actually don't watch it anymore. I just have a sense of what works at this point, and um, I'm not going to remember exactly the values that work, but hopefully I can remember well enough to explain. Okay, so the first thing you do is you just tap right, you place a bomb, you get ISG, target. I'm not gonna explain every step. Just copy me. Uh, but then you're gonna walk to the left, and then you're going to switch to kind of down left. I have to hold a little bit down from down left to get a backflip and not a side hop on my controller. But switch to down left-ish. You're gonna hold that down left-ish angle for all of the hovers. And but this hover off the bomb, there's 2 frames that work easily. Let me just, I guess, go from here and try to show. Whoops. I didn't hold straight left. That's what the lower frame looks like. So yeah, 165.6. So I think with the lower frame, so lower means the first possible frame that works for the backflip. So the frame that I just got for that backflip for that bomb hover, you want that frame or the frame after it. This frame is easier because you can just do full height chew. You can just basically go for full height chew hovers, and that's what I did. I went for all height chew hovers, and I got 165.6, which means I got 1 second frame chew hover. The rest were first frame. If you get all first frame chew hovers, it's 165.9. But I think if you have a good like left right from a good position on the left right axis relative to what the camera is right now. So if I were like a little more left or a little more right, it would affect what height I can clip at a little bit in ways that I don't fully understand. But there is like an optimal left-right position here. So like how much you walk to the left before you hover, theoretically like should affect how much you're curving your, how much you're holding down left versus slightly more down or whatever. But I think if you have, why I'm saying this is, I think that's not something you should be thinking about that much. But why I'm saying this is, if you have the perfect left-right position, I think you can have up to 4 second frame chew hovers. Don't sue me if that's wrong, but you can definitely have up to 3 second frame chew hovers. So if you have 165.0, that means you got 3 second frame chew hovers and the rest first frame, and that should still work if you have a decent position. And then the other frame, I'm not gonna show the mega flip and everything just yet. The other frame that should work, that was the ideal frame again. That was the ideal frame again. That's the ideal frame again. I think that's it, 20.7? I kind of forgot. Okay, so that's something I'm gonna have to explain in a second, targeting the Dodongo. But let me show a full. Let me verify that I'm showing the right thing here first, with the second frame bomb hover. Okay, 20.7. I'm pretty sure that's right. So now I'm trying for mostly second frame chew hovers, and this should work. Well, actually, you can see that's at 166.5, and before I said 165.9 is the highest you can get from the earlier bomb hover frame. So yeah, I think the height range that works is something like 165 flat or slightly under that, up to like 167 maybe. Yeah, you can play around with this to figure out exactly. I don't know all the exact. I'm not a big frame data watches type of guy. I just do it and figure it out. Um, but something like that is true. And but the thing that I think about is just if I get the earlier bomb hover frame, I go for mostly first frame chew hovers. If I get the later bomb hover frame, I go for mostly second frame chew hovers. And another thing you can do to make it easier, if you get the second bomb hover frame, I'm not gonna bother getting it, but I'll just show you that if you get the second bomb hover frame, you can. I didn't do it. If you get the second bomb hover frame, you can actually delay the first chew hover, so the second total hover. You can delay the first chew hover quite a bit. You can get like a 5th frame hover on the on that one right there. I'm not really doing a very good job of it at all. Like that was a really late chew hover, and you can do something like that, and then if you see that you did that correctly, you can be much less aggressive with trying to delay your other 6 chew hovers, because it is kind of scary going for second frame chew hovers, because if you get a 3rd frame, I think you fall down if it's not that very first chew hover. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, one way or another, you have to lose quite a bit of height from optimal chew hovers if you get that second bomb hover frame. And you I think you can even get like a super late. Let's just see if I can make this work. Yeah, that's 165 flat. So yeah, you can definitely make something like that work. I guess you can. I never get a frame that's that late really, but I guess. Yeah, I guess if you want to, you could even aim for what I call the second bomb hover frame, and then if you get the earlier, if you're 1 frame early, then you do all height hovers, which is kind of what I aim for as the ideal frame. But if you're late, then you can just be super slow on the first chew hover to kind of counteract that, like that, and then also go for second framers here or whatever. One thing also that was even too low. Anyway, you just have to manage your height. there are multiple bomb frames that can work, but you have to know what they look like and know how to adjust. That's the general idea. Another thing is if you get super late, based on how you do those first 2 hovers, it can affect how far back you're going quite a bit, which can actually make you end up going more left, because as you're hovering along this wall, the farther back you hover along this wall, you're kind of, can I show it? I don't know. You're on this like slope that's facing backwards. It's like, or this wall is like angled a little bit this way. So as you're going back a little bit, you're kind of going a little bit this way as well, which affects your ultimate position when you do that mega flip, which I was describing earlier. So if you do like a super delayed, whoops. If you delay this chew hover a ton, that might mean you want to hold a little more toward down for the rest of these hovers to end up in the right spot, on the left-right kind of axis that I was talking about. It's there's different things that I think about a little bit to try to optimize the chances that it's going to clip. But yeah, if you're in that ideal range of like, what was it, 145? Well, I can't even remember. Whatever that like 5.9 Y value is like really the center of that range. And if you're in the center of that range, you're gonna clip even if your position is pretty terrible. You really do want this straight angle though. If you notice that you don't turn straight, or like something weird happens and your angle looks wrong, don't even go for it, because it's so risky to fail this trick. Just step out and come back in. I have seen it work where like I mess up my angle by targeting the dodongo, and then I like YOLO an angle and like retarget and somehow still clip. But yeah, generally if I mess up my angle here, I'll just exit and re-enter to fix it. Anyway, so the only other like really complicated thing left to explain is the dodongos. So you can see before you turn. I'm just gonna make another save state out here to show different RNG scenarios. You can see before you turn whether you got, I didn't even explain that I slashed my sword before when I was explaining the inputs. So like here I got the perfect scenario where he didn't move at all. But it's quite common that he'll start walking. I'm mostly talking about the left dodongo. I don't think I've ever had it where the right dodongo mattered. Okay, he's being super nice. Okay, there he started walking, but that's probably not going to be an issue no matter what. If he starts walking super early, that's kind of what you have to be worried about. And like, you know, doing all of these inputs on the first possible frame like I'm doing really helps. Like there I delayed them just a tiny bit just to show. And he got quite a bit closer to me, which, you know, I'll try it from here and see. Whoops, I still have to target. Let's go from here, I guess. Yeah, so there, like, this is a state, you know, going from this state here. This is the dodongo can very easily be an issue here. Can very easily mess you up here. So the way that it messes you up is you have to, well, you don't have to. You don't have to target here at all. You can just hover. Okay, nice. You can just hover all the way up and then you wait. But then you're waiting quite a bit before you can see the bomb, and you really want to mega flip immediately. I mean, if you're playing the game at the level where this trick becomes worth it, you probably want to do the mega flip immediately and not wait for the bomb. So what you have to do is target either the third to last or the second to last or the last chew, and then immediately retarget again. And to do that, to make that easier, I also target and retarget on the third hover. So, you know, watch how I target on that one and then immediately retarget, and then I try for it on that one, and ideally I get it on that one. So the third to last. So yeah, the third total hover, you know, counting the bomb hover. So there's 8 total hovers counting the bomb hover. The third total hover, I will try to target the chew and then immediately target again after that. And if I fail that, I'll try it on the next one, then I'll try it on the next one until I get it. But eventually the camera will go too far down relative to Link and you won't be able to fix it without just waiting. But then the reason that I'm doing that earlier retarget is just so that the camera is still up with Link when I need to do the later retarget, which is the one that actually matters for centering it for the mega flip, and that has to be on one of the last three hovers. So, and that's the one, by the way, the one that's on one of the last 3 hovers is the one where the dodongo is gonna potentially be an issue. And so I just try to remember. So the dodongo becomes more of an issue the later you do it. So that's why I try for it on the 6th total hover, the third to last. And if you were fast on the initial inputs, entering the grotto and turning to the right and all that, it should never be an issue when you target on the 6th total hover. The dodongo should never be far enough to the right from this perspective here that you would ever target it there. But if you get really bad RNG and or you were a little bit slow, he can be a problem for the second to last. And if you get pretty bad RNG and or you were pretty slow, he will be a problem on the very last, trying to target on the very last hover. So yeah, so what I do is I just try to remember where the dodongo, or like how much the dodongo was able to move toward me before I turn the camera to the right. And if he was able to, based on that, I decide whether to, or like when to stop going for it if I fail those chew targets. So if I remember that the if I remember that the dodongo didn't move toward me at all, then I'll just, well, ideally I just succeed on the target on the 6th total hover. But if I fail it and I remember that the dodongo didn't move toward me at all, then I'll go for it on the 7th. And if I fail that, then I'll still go for it on the 8th. But if if I remember that the RNG was bad and I get into that scenario where I'm failing it, I might stop going for it on either the 7th or the 8th and just wait for the camera to move up slowly. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. That's pretty much all there is to that. I guess there is another complicated part to the trick, which is just the turning left. What happens when you start failing the turn left? Now you could just there are different things that you could theoretically buffer for this trick and still have it be worth going for, I guess. But the thing that I would maybe recommend, the thing that maybe is most worth buffering is actually the turn left, I think. Let me just get into position. Okay. Oh, that's another thing to think about. So there, also, yeah, I just failed it because, and I'll explain. That's related to what I was about to explain. So what I was about to explain is when the dodongo gets closer to you like this state that I have, that I'm working from here, you're going to get this delay when you mega flip. Well, you could even get it on the hovers if he gets really close, but that's never happened to me. But you can get it where enough of your chews were close enough to damage this dodongo that this bomb is actually going to kill him. Whoops. But when you kill him, this matters. It matters because, not because of what you might think, like the explosion is going to hit you or something. It matters because the game freezes when an enemy dies. And so when the bomb hits the dodongo, the game freezes for like a few frames or something. 2 frames? A few frames? I don't know. It's pretty significant actually, it looks like, now that I look closely at it. So yeah, that freeze matters for a couple of reasons. If you're not careful, if you try to pull this bomb immediately, you will pull that bomb while you're still in the bomb explosion radius, and it will blow you up and you'll fall down. That will absolutely happen if you try to pull that bomb immediately and you're not used to that freeze frame. So I just always delay it. I just always delay that bomb pull a little bit. Sometimes I still manage to pull it early enough and explode myself. But yeah, I think it's best to just always delay it, especially because that when you pull that bomb determines how difficult this next part is going to be a little bit as well. And this next part is kind of the hardest part. I mean, yeah, at this point I'm used to the hovers and they're not that bad. I have a good sense of how to adjust them and stuff. This part is still very failable because of the tap left, which really sucks. Anyway, but the other reason that the freeze frame can mess you up is it can mess you up when you do the next input, which is holding right to turn and start walking as soon as you hit the ground, which is essential for the clip. So this is a lenient enough input that you might get into the habit of just doing it as like a rhythm thing, not even like barely even looking at the screen. Like, you know, you kind of just have to do it around the time you hit the ground. And so you might get into the habit of doing it like as a timing relative to when you pull the bomb or relative to when you mega flip or whatever. But if you do that, you will be early when you get the freeze frame. So yeah, you have to pay attention to the freeze frame and be ready to kind of delay that next input a little bit. But let me save a state here. This might not be a good state. I can't remember what happened. But okay, so this next part, so after you hold right and target, Again, I'm not explaining every single input here because you can watch the input display. But yeah, this part is weirdly scary because you just have to have a perfect tap left, and if you hold left too long, you're gonna walk back inbounds. So that's, you know, these are too fast taps, but that's too long of a tap. And if obviously you want to play, you want to err on the side of too fast. You don't want to tend toward too late and, you know, walk back inbounds and instantly kill the run. But if you fail by going too early multiple times in a row, then you're getting into a situation where the bomb is about to explode and you can't see the bomb. So I think the way that I should be doing it, honestly, this is not how I actually do it in runs, but I think the way that I should do it in runs to be safe is if I fail this tap multiple times, just imagine that I failed the tap multiple times here. I think if I fail it multiple times, then what I should do is just buffer like the third attempt or something. Or maybe even if I fail the tap once, I should just buffer it. Like here, I should just, wow, I buffered 2 frames because grotto buffering is super fast. But yeah, I think what I'd recommend is if you do that, then just buffer a turn. And then it still might be hard to like do this without a buffer, but you can buffer that as well in this scenario. I just, again, buffered 1 billion frames. But yeah, you can decide how you want to do that. You can also just, you know, keep trying it, and then if you get into a situation where you spent way too long trying to turn, then hopefully you can time this where you can like hover, and then you can just do a mega flip from here. That's another backup that can help, that I've used a couple times. But yeah, ideally you just get the turn, and then you have a yeah, if you don't get that turn, first try, to me, I always just if I don't get the turn first try, I always just buffer the recoil. But yeah, otherwise, if you get the turn first try, it's easy enough to watch the bomb flashes and do the recoil, which is 2 frames. Now, one more thing actually to mention, the recoil is not always 2 frames. You can get the clip and end up in a position with an angle where the recoil is only 1 frame. I don't have a good, like, it can look slightly different when that's going to happen. But one thing I'll say is, if you get this type of clip where when you hold right, when you hit the ground from the mega flip, you hold right and he walks like farther than normal, like a lot farther than normal, that's something that's very noticeable. And when you see that, you should always go for the last frame recoil, which probably means you want to buffer it. Because yeah, the previous frame is probably not going to make it because it's going to give you a slightly weird position and angle. You know, you can obviously turn on the whatever it is, the collision viewer, so that you can see where this grotto is and like buffer it and try to understand, which I haven't even done. It's pretty rare to get a position that that won't make it with the earlier recoil frame. Okay, I think that covers it. Yeah, let me know if you have questions.